This webinar today is about our last call for 2022 programs. I wanted to give you a very quick overview of what's still on the roster for this year, how many spots are left. You've got a chart in front of you, and give you a very quick overview of each of the trips. In case you haven't booked something for this year already, then you still have a chance because we still have some spots available. So just to give you a quick overview, looking out over the next few months, our next trip actually is to Porto in the Azores in April. And we also have a short live away in Tuscany, but I suspect nobody's booking for April at this late date. So those two trips are closed out at this point. In May, we're doing our lovely cruise down the Adriatic coast and also visiting beautiful Croatia and Slovenia. But both of our May and October trips for this year are actually already sold out. So just to give you a sense of the demand that we've had, just in the last few weeks, we've completely sold out both those trips. We are now planning for 2023. We're going to be going to Croatia in 2023 again, if you were hoping or thinking about going on that trip. Coming up in June, we've got Ireland. It says here 4 spots available, but we just had a couple people book literally in the last 24 hours since I put this webinar together. So there are still a couple of spots there, maybe just 2, but Ireland is a beautiful place to visit in June. On our Scandinavia, we have our first 5x5 trip, and I'll talk about that in a minute. That's 5 nights in 5 different cities. It's actually probably going to be condensed down to just Scandinavia. It was going to be the Baltic capitals as well, but for reasons that I probably don't need to mention, we're going to probably truncate that trip and just focus on the Scandinavian capitals. Our Germany and Benelux 5x5, which was going to happen in August, we've had to postpone to 2023, unfortunately for the members who were booked on that, because we've had to give up our hotel allotments because, again, the demand for travel in Europe in summer was so strong that they basically said, pay up or we have to cancel your reservation. So that's been put off. Our Trans-Siberian trip, and I know we have some members on the webinar who were booked on that, has unfortunately been canceled until further notice. I think that goes without saying why that has happened, and it's very unfortunate, but under the circumstances, we had no choice. I talked about Croatia in October. In October, we're also going back to our Tuscany live away. There is still space on that, both for Florence and for Cortona. Not a lot of space. I know we have a ton of interest in that program. So if you're thinking about Tuscany in the fall, it's a beautiful time to go. That would be one to jump on. Then we have our France Kaleidoscope in October. And on 3 of the segments, we still have a few spaces available. Just the Canal du Midi part is sold out. And then looking out to November, we have our Safari by Land and Sea, again, for the same reason. The space was pulled from us early because there's so much demand to go to the Seychelles and also to the safari lodges that we simply weren't able to hold on to the space, much to the dismay of those who had booked on those trips. It's a testament to why we have to think ahead and book early. And on our trip to Tahiti in November, there are still spots available. Looking out to next year, again, things are filling up again already. We've got a few spots left to Costa Rica in January. Koh Samui is almost sold out. I did manage to get my hands on a few more apartments at our property there. So there's still some space left on that, but it won't be long before that's finished. And then Bali, we have some space again, but it's already looking really, really busy. And we've just released, of course, our Mediterranean live-aways, and the ones in Madeira. Cyprus is not released yet, Malta and Sicily, which is coming up. So those ones will be released very soon. So let's talk quickly about the programs again. If you're thinking about traveling and you want to join us for one of these, there's still some space left. Again, I mentioned we're going to Ireland in June of this year. What I love about this trip, again, like most of our trips, we've slowed things down. We're going to spend 4 nights in the capital in Dublin. And Dublin, if you haven't been, an amazing city, such a vibrant place. So we've got a full day that's free there. So we've got 2 days of organized trips We're going to visit Kilkenny, for example. We're going to go down to Wicklow, but there's a whole other day because I know a lot of people have Irish roots and are looking to be able to have some free time to look around. So that's why we've got the extra time. We're going to take the train across Ireland, which is going to be fun, to Galway on the west coast. We have again 4 nights there that gives us a free day. For example, I'm planning on heading out to the Aran Islands with some of our members, these rugged islands off the coast of Ireland, which are truly spectacular. And we'll visit Connemara County with all of the bogs, classic West Coast Ireland. On our way from Galway down to Killarney, we're going to hit the cliffs of Moher, 600-foot high cliffs. You'll recognize them from like Harry Potter films and the like. Amazing countryside as we head down to Killarney. There, we're going to do the Ring of Kerry, which is the classic tourist track of Ireland, but we're also going to hit the Dingle Peninsula, which is a beautiful part of the country. On our way back to Dublin, we're going to stop over in Cork, which is Ireland's food capital, and then go by train for the last leg as well. So it's a kind of a unique trip around Ireland, than compared to most trips. Again, they're a beautiful shot of Dublin there and the cliffs of Moher, which are going to be some of the highlights on our trip in June. So there are a couple of spaces left if you're interested in that. Looking forward to July, basically starting at the end of June, our Scandinavia and the Baltics 5x5. Here, as I mentioned, we're going to hit the main the main Scandinavian capitals, with the exception of Oslo, because that's a separate tour we're going to run to Norway. The trip is going to spend 5 nights in each of Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Helsinki. It was scheduled to continue on to Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius. But needless to say, with what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine, we've tentatively left those ones aside. We've already advised the members who were booked there because I know there is some concern about traveling in the Baltic countries with the unrest. Unrest is an understatement in Ukraine. The beauty of a 5x5, the design of this program is that my personal view is that 5 nights is the optimal period of time in which to experience a place, a city to its fullest without being a live away, for example. And so in an average 5-night program, it means we have 4 full days to take in the place, 2 of which will be organized trips, taking in some of the spots that are my favorites that I think are must-see highlights of each city. The other 2 days are completely at your leisure, and we're going to go off and explore. And you probably have some of your own ideas. And our members, being all avid travelers, love to research the places they like to go. And so that is the theory behind a 5x5 program. The other nice thing about this trip is that we're doing it by land and by ferry. We're doing it kind of like the locals would do it. This isn't like a cruise ship program where you barely have time to, check your watch before you have to be back on board. And so we'll start in Copenhagen with 5 nights. Copenhagen, June, this is midsummer. This is the longest days of the year. The weather is usually magnificent. The city's alive, Tivoli Gardens, Kronborg Palace. It's an amazing city, a great place to start. And as I say, we'll have 5 days to explore Copenhagen. We might even be able to take in a little bit more of the island that this part of Denmark is on, and head up to Helsingborg, or we can cross over the Øresund Bridge to the southern part of Sweden. And so Denmark, Copenhagen in particular, an amazing city, one of my favorite. However, my all-time favorite in Scandinavia is the capital of Sweden, Stockholm. This is a beautiful picture overlooking Gamla Stan, the so-called old town of Stockholm. Stockholm is an archipelago of islands that sit in the Baltic Sea, and it's also surrounded by lakes. It is an immaculately clean, incredibly picturesque city. We're going to be staying right near the railway station, which is very central to the old town. We're going to go and visit Djurgården, which is in the background of the picture. It's an island where they have some museums on, including this giant ship that the expedition ship that was used by the Swedish explorer that has been completely put back together again. It's about 600 years old, an incredible piece of history there. And we'll probably spend a whole day just cruising around the islands of the archipelago of Stockholm. It's reminiscent, the landscape here, of like southern Ontario, a lot of rock, granite, beautiful lakes. Stockholm is a wonderful city to visit again at this time of the year. Everybody's alive and happy because the days are long. From Stockholm, we're going to head out by ferry to Helsinki. And so we're going to cross the Bothnian Sea, which separates Sweden and Finland, and end up pulling right into Helsinki. And, you know, the dynamic in Finland is so much different than in Sweden. You know, the Finns are very laid back kind of people. You know, as you well know, they hold their meetings often while taking a sauna. And so while we spend 5 nights in Helsinki, probably might even get a chance to try out a true Finnish sauna, but we're certainly going to visit Suomenlinna, which is one of the largest sea fortress. It's on its own island that is in front of Helsinki. They've got an incredible rock church, which is hewn right into the solid rock. And 5 nights here will give us a great chance to see not only Helsinki itself, but some of the smaller towns outside that give you a bit of an insight into life in rural Finland. So 2 weeks, 15 nights, a beautiful way to really sink into the you know, the lifestyle with Scandinavia, you know, these countries that are constantly rated as having the highest standard of living in the world. And we're going to get a good taste of that on our 5x5 to the Scandinavian capitals. Fast forwarding up to October, we're going to be going to France. And, you know, I love France at any time of the year, but particularly October, it's harvest season, of course, and France is, you know, the ultimate of food destinations. Our Kaleidoscope takes in 4 parts of France. The one part is, of course, sold out, the Canal du Midi. We're going to spend the first week here in the north, in Normandy. Normandy, of course, well known for the D-Day landing beaches, but there's so much more to Normandy than just that. A lot of people head there and head just to the beaches, which is an important part of history, again, particularly considering with what's going on these days. But there's so much more to Normandy. I'll talk about that in a second. The second part of our trip, we're going to spend a week down in Lyon and Burgundy. And Lyon is France's food capital. That's where some of the greatest Michelin star chefs live or have evolved over time. The third part, which again is unfortunately for those that are interested, unfortunately sold out. That's our houseboating trip down the Canal du Midi. And then the last part of our trip is Provence and the Côte d'Azur. This is southern France, which is a great place to be at the end of October because the weather is generally still very spring-like and warm. So talking about Normandy, we're going to base ourselves in a little town called Bayeux, which of course was one of the cities that was first liberated when the Allied forces came and landed on the D-Day beaches. So this place is rich with history, also with food, because this is the countryside where you find Armagnac, Camembert, a lot of these products that, you know, we know so well, and it's great to sample them, try them in the place of origin. Highlight for sure here, we'll be visiting Mont Saint-Michel, which is this incredible cathedral that you see that's on an island on the coast. When the tide comes in, it's completely surrounded by water, and when it's out, you could actually walk over there and you see, of course, all these sheep in the pastures that are adjacent to Mont Saint-Michel. Beautiful part of France. The second part of our trip, again, this is Lyon and the region of Burgundy in the Rhone and Saône valleys. We're going to stay right in Lyon for a week, and we're going to visit Lyon's famous food markets. You might spot a famous French chef that they all shop in there because you find an array of fresh vegetables and meat and food product in general that but like you've never seen before. We're also going to dine at a Michelin star restaurant belonging to Jérémy Galvin. He is one of the up and coming Michelin star chefs and has an incredible kitchen. That's going to be one of the highlights of our whole trip in France. While we're there, we'll also zip up to Beaune, which is, of course, Burgundy and the capital of Burgundy wines. And we'll do some tasting of wines, and we'll see this wonderful countryside, which should look much like this, with all of the leaves of the grapevines changing colors. And again, a perfect time of the year to visit Burgundy. The last part of this trip will be to Provence and the Côte d'Azur. This is, of course, southern France. And I've decided for this program, we're going to base ourselves right in the town of Aix-en-Provence, which is about a 45-minute drive north of Marseille. For those that are joining us from the Canal du Midi, we're going to come over by train, but otherwise you can fly right into Marseille, or you can fly to Paris and take the famous French TGV, the TGV, down to Aix-en-Provence. And from here, Aix-en-Provence is a cool town because it's a university town, so it has a very young vibe to it. But at the same time, it has all of that classic French architecture, little shops, cafes, lovely place to spend a week. And from here, we can go up to the small villages and towns in the countryside, up to places like Verdun Gorge, which is in the foothills of the Alps. We're going to spend a day going up towards Avignon, which is of course famous for the Papal Cathedral. We're going to go and see the delta of the Rhone River over by Arles and the Camargue region. So we're going to really get a great taste of Provence. The last part of this trip, we're going to go via Saint-Tropez. So we're going to head down south. Saint-Tropez is probably a name that's familiar to you, but you may never been there before. One of the most celebrated French seaside resorts. We'll have lunch there, and we'll make our way along the beautiful French, the beautiful Côte d'Azur towards Nice, where we'll spend 3 nights. Here we can take in Nice itself, which has transformed incredibly since I first went there 25 years ago. Also Monaco, which is very nearby. And I suspect that some of our members will probably stay on a few days in Nice because the weather is undoubtedly going to be nicer there in the beginning of November than it is back home. So here's a shot of Nice from the hilltop that's just to the south end of the city. A truly magnificent place to spend a few days. Then one more month ahead, in the same month, I should say, we're going to be in Tuscany for the month of October. So this is a full live away program. We're going to be doing Florence next month, actually, with a few of our members. But in October, we're going to be doing both the city part of Tuscany, as in Florence, as well as the countryside, as well as Cortona, which is a beautiful hilltop town in the south of the region of Tuscany. So to describe our trip, as I say, from Florence, we're going to be mostly focusing on the cultural aspects of the city. You could easily spend 2 weeks without even leaving the city between all of the galleries with Michelangelo and the Uffizi and the Duomo. We're going to be staying at a accommodation that's a few steps from the famous cathedral, the Duomo in Florence. We're also going to have optional excursions to Cinque Terre, which of course is on the Tyrrhenian coast, the Mediterranean coast on the west of Italy. And we're going to head up for a day trip to Bologna, which is also a foodie destination. A lot of people don't realize that, but Bologna is where the Italians go for some of the best food in the northern part of Italy. So the first 2 weeks will be in Florence, the second 2 weeks in Cortona. From Cortona, which is, again, sitting up on a hill with incredible views over southern Tuscany, we're going to visit a number of cities around there. This is an aerial shot of Tuscany with the Duomo in it. You can see the hills around, again, the walking that you can do all through these little streets, the galleries, the shopping. I won't even mention that. It's incredible. And then this is a shot I took of from Cortona, which is an ancient town that has, as I say, these beautiful views. We're going to have excursions on almost every day, but of course, with our live away programs, it's optional. You can choose as much or as little as you want to do. I spent some time in Cortona in this past fall, and you could literally just go to the different cafes and wander around the streets. It's a bit of an active trip in the sense that because it's a hilltop town, everything is either a walk uphill or a walk downhill. And so we're going to have some lovely apartments that are close to the center of town. But depending on the number of people that decide to join us for this trip, we may also have a villa that is a little bit outside of town, which means it's a little bit of a walk. But if you're game and if you're active for doing some good walking, this is a terrific place to do it because the scenery is so incredible. Looking forward then one more month to November, the beginning of November. This is a trip we launched about 9 months ago, and the demand was huge. But of course, we've had a couple of waves of COVID since then. And so we still have a bunch of spots left on this trip. And this is our Yachting in Tahiti program. Again, quite a unique trip because most people heading to Tahiti will go to one of the islands where they have atolls and these sort sort of overwater type bungalows. And you go and you sort of hang your hat for a week or 10 days at quite great expense, I must add. Tahiti is certainly one of the most expensive tropical destinations that you can visit. We're doing it a little bit differently because we're going to spend a few days on the main island near Papeete, the capital, and then we're going to embark on our ship for a 10-night cruise that's going to hit the various main islands, the Society Islands, the Tuamotu Islands. So we're going to take in a lot more of Tahiti with our vessel than you normally would. And this is our ship here, the MS Panorama 2. We have worked with this company. This is actually a Greek family that owns this company. We do a number of our programs with them. They really have a first-class hospitality, and on board this 48-passenger ship, we're going to be able to go and as I say, visit a number of the different islands in Tahiti and explore some of this very unique French Polynesian culture, soak up the rays. What better place to go and what a better place to be during the month of November. So that's what's left in 2022 in terms of available spaces. We've thought about trying to put some new programs in because I know our members are asking us about, this and that, and why aren't we doing this? And there's a lot of anxiousness to try to do other trips, but we're trying to focus on the trips that we do really well and ensure that those get delivered. And at the same time, we are planning very hard for 2023. And so why now? I think, again, because travel is going to, the demand for travel is going to be accelerating for the next several months. Now that COVID is gone, countries are eliminating their entry requirements all over the place. So it's important to start thinking ahead and booking up some of this stuff, because when they ask us to give our space back, we don't really have much choice. In January, hosted by our good friend and colleague, Martine. She's an expert in Costa Rica. She's down there right now, in fact, and so she sent me a video saying hello from Costa Rica. We have a very unique eco adventure. We're going to be spending our time at a couple of different lodges that are in some of the most biodiverse parts of all of North America, quite frankly. Costa Rica is well known for its vast number of endemic species. Part of our trip is going to be in the Cloudbridge Nature Reserve, which is more in the mountain, in the volcanic part of Costa Rica, at a wonderful place called Rio Cheripo. So we're going to spend about 4 nights in there, 4 or 5 nights in there. And then we're going to spend the latter part of our trip down in the southern part of Costa Rica on the Osa Peninsula. This is adjacent to Corcovado National Park. And this is like literally for somebody who's, if you're at all interested in, again, some of the most vast array of tropical species, birds in particular, but everything under the sun. This is where people go, is to Corcovado. It's one of the most sought after national parks in the world for wildlife. We've got, again, a great lodge in there that we have held. We're holding on to the remaining rooms that we can there. And so we're going to be going there in January, and would love to have you along. As I said, I think we have about 4 spots left for this trip. So if you're thinking about where you might go for a little tropical getaway, I can highly recommend Costa Rica. Similarly, we released our Live Away program to Koh Samui. That was the one that was of course postponed from this year to next year. And no sooner did we release it, it was just over a month ago, and we are almost sold out. We do still have some rooms left. We have some on wait list. I'm working literally, we're calling them every day to try to get every available room that we can. So we're going to be going for a month to Koh Samui from January the 13th to February the 11th of next year. And we will stay on this wonderful island. We'll have some weekend trips as well to places like the Phi Phi Islands, to Khao Sok National Park. And of course, you can extend your stay by coming a few days earlier, visiting Bangkok. You can go up to Chiang Mai in the northern part of Thailand. and connecting or immediately following our trip to Koh Samui. This is a view from one of my favorite parts in Ang Thong Marine Park. Immediately after Koh Samui, we're going to be heading to Bali in Indonesia. Again, this is a magnificent destination, great place to spend a whole month. So a lot of the people who have already joined us for Koh Samui are going to be continuing on with us to Bali, because if you're going to travel to this far off part of the world, why not do both? And so the second part of this will be Bali, a month from February the 13th to March the 13th. We're going to be staying on the south eastern coast of Bali. If you look at the inset map at the bottom right, you get a sense of where Bali is relative to sort of the rest of Indonesia. And from Sanur, which is a great spot because Bali has a lot of different facets and sides to it, right? It's, as you may have heard, it's become quite a busy place. It's very popular among Australians, young Australians, for its party scene, but not where we're going. Sanur is actually, call it the retirement capital of Bali. So it's a great spot. And from here, we can enjoy visits to the cultural parts of the island, like Ubud in the center, you can see in the map. We can go up to the volcanoes like Mount Batur, as well as to the rice terraces up at Jatiluwi. We've got a whole bunch of different great experiences in Bali, weekend trips where you can go away for a couple of days and visit the West Coast, which is much less visited than the tourist parts in the very southern part of Bali. Also Nusa Penida that you see is an island off the coast, the Gili Islands. So this is a very rich program culturally, but also is a great place to get away from the winter blahs. So we're going literally just as the transition between the so-called wet season and the dry season. So it's, I think, the perfect time to visit Bali. Well, I could show you a million pictures, but you probably know what it looks like already from National Geographic and the like. So there we go. That's my overview. If you have any questions right now, please do type them in the chat box or the Q&A box. But of course, you can always give us a call and let us know what questions that you have, anything you'd like to find out about these programs. Between Paula and myself, we're more than happy to get all of your questions answered. We hope that if you haven't booked something already, you'll consider joining us for one of our trips this year. As I say, I'm excited. We got off to a very good start. We've had 2 great programs so far. We're looking forward to heading to Italy next week with some of our members, as well as on these other programs I've mentioned today. I haven't seen any questions appear in the Q&A box, so that means we can probably wrap up. Stay tuned for us. In a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be introducing our newest live away program. That's going to be New Zealand, where we're going to go immediately after Bali. So that's going to go from the middle of March until the middle of April of 2023. That's going to be a 2-part live away, 2 weeks on the North Island in the Bay of Plenty area, and then 2 weeks on the South Island near Queenston. And that's our program to New Zealand. So yeah, I saw a question from Lynn. Yes, I will get back to you on that. We're just catching up on our programs that are happening imminently. So if you haven't heard from us on one of our programs that's happening, like Ireland or the 5x5, it is definitely on Paula's agenda, and we will be getting to you in the next week or two once we get our April programs off and everybody's off on their way. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate, as always, all of your support. I look forward to meeting all of you on one of our trips sometime soon. And it's always great to hear from you, including our members who have just come back from trips recently. I've heard great feedback. So we know we're doing the right thing. We're excited for travel, and we'll catch up with you on our next webinar, which will be on April the 14th. Take care of yourselves. Until then, we'll be sending you a replay of this in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thanks very much. Have yourselves a great day.